Live from Lincoln and broadcasting across the state of Nebraska, it's the Average Joe Sports Show. This is the place for Husker sports with the biggest names, the best interviews, and all the inside scoops.
I got a front row seat with a big tub of buttered popcorn and a greasy half-live chicken leg.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Weekend edition is here with the Average Joe Sports Show. Chris Schmidt, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Mr. Mark Kraynak. We had back. He is in. Good to be back in the USA with everybody. And we are diving full force into Big Ten Media Days here on the doorstep. SEC made their claims and beat their chest a bit. We got a lot to talk about with Nebraska. A tough recruiting battle that didn't go Nebraska's way, but we'll see if Nebraska can make a late flip here before the eventual signing day with Sone, the coveted defensive tackle. Guys got back late last night from the European vacation with Junior and Joe Mama. It was awesome. I'm glad to be back home. Pretty long day of travel yesterday, and then we'll get up and get ready to do it again next week for Vegas with Media Days. Kraynak, Doleman, Elijah, what's up, fellas? How we doing?
Why is he asking us? You're the one that just got back from Germany. All right. What's been going on? We've been in the Omaha or Lincoln metro area-ish, I think. Bill, are you back in town?
I'm not. No. Okay. I'm just here waiting for the European slideshow that Chris is going to show everybody today.
Isn't that good? Yeah. I'm picturing like Rick Steves, but worse. You know?
Rick Steves with a lot more beer.
Right. So Germany. So we did confirm no relation to Adolf. That's good. We can check that off the list.
Right.
Is that right? Good.
Yeah, we were able
Always
to confirm
positive.
that Grandpa Schmidt was part of the 134th Nebraska National Guard group that came in a month after D-Day.
Whoa.
And that's where he was injured in France. Purple Heart recipient with a grenade to the left side of his face. And Grandpa Schmidt survived that. And Grandpa Schmidt was the baddest of badasses. So his operation with a lot of the Nebraska National Guard came through to help claim some super tedious region for a bigger operation to go through and liberate parts of that region around Normandy. So the tour started with Normandy, then to Paris, to Munich, Munich to the Bavarian Alps, and then from the Bavarian Alps to Lucerne, Switzerland. We spent the last 3 days in Switzerland, and I got to go up top to the Alps with Junior. And it was, Doleman, you're a veteran of Winter Olympic coverage, and it wasn't quite the Skelly run where you're on top of a mountain and you're on a go-kart downhill, but it was a combo of that with bobsled action in this track they had laid from the top of one of the areas in the Alps where you're on a little go-kart with a stick. You know, you're going Mario Kart. So me and Junior are able to do that. Is
that how you traveled Europe the entire way? It was on
go-karts
with sticks?
Yeah. How many extra lives did we, did we gather in back pocket through coin gathering? Right. So no, we had a little tour in Lucerne where we checked out cheese and chocolate and a lot of gin and tonics. We were good, and then tons and tons and tons of German beer. In moderation, of course, with schnitzel and
tons
pretzels.
in moderation.
And,
so the schnitzel, I only was in Germany for a couple days, and I got one schnitzel, and the thing was bigger than the plate.
It was
was that normal? Was that
it was
kind of how they all do it?
Schnitzel was good. The pork knuckle was massive.
Pork knuckle.
It was a bone in. Almost like pork tenderloin, but it had the bone in the middle of it, and then it was crusted like grandma or grandpa's home fried chicken.
But that's different than pig's feet.
It wasn't pig's feet.
Huh.
So that was great. Elijah's looking at me funny. What'd you say?
Different than moose knuckle?
It is. Yeah, I was waiting for one of you bastards to go, oh, let's make a joke. But that was great. And then the beer was just incredible. And it was pretty light. And just honestly, the food over there, everything was clean. Like it just wasn't heavy and brutal. And they did charge you $1 or $9 for, bottled water over there, but it's the way to go. So it was absolutely fascinating. I put a bunch of probably overdosed folks on social media between Facebook and some Twitter posts and Instagram with some of the slides I put together, but tried to do as much as I could with pictures, video wise, with just where we were. And our hotel, it was called the Montana, was on kind of top of the foothills of Lucerne, Switzerland. And we were looking out to Lake Lucerne. And that's where we're sitting there having drinks. And it's just beautiful at night. It's beautiful during the day. You got a breeze coming in.
Kind of a branched oak vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Lenoma. Yes. But it was awesome. But I was keeping my eye on college football at Nebraska for sure.
Well, Schmidty, I was going to say, thank God you went to Europe to give us something to talk about on a Saturday morning before media days.
Yeah. We don't have to get into football yet.
For the average
really? I got a whole list of football stuff, dude. I've been jonesing since last Sunday.
What about David Huffkin? Did you see his hometown or anything?
I didn't see his hometown. The Kensington groups who took care of this tour, shout out to them, and they give us a guide each day. And my mother has done a lot of international travel with some friends. And so they're kind of old hat at this. And what was great was the tours they'd give us. You'd have a Sprinter van is where we'd kind of pile in, and then that would help navigate to where we needed to be. And it was just a great itinerary where you get up.
One.
Mercedes. Yeah. It was a Mercedes. I felt like a Kardashian.
Diesel. Yeah, exactly.
Where you're piling into a van and then you're going to some destination 2 hours later, and you hit some of the smaller little towns around the region in the Alps. That was great. Some of the smaller towns around Germany and Munich as you headed south to Bavaria. We checked out a castle that was great and a lot of walking. I mean, the old thumbs up on my phone with daily activity. You've started a new trend, Schmidt. You're actually mobile and active and averaging about six miles a day of activity, which was great.
Yeah, seriously. What was your most steps in a day? Do you know?
In
20,
Paris,
20
Junior drugged me to a couple of spots because he wanted to buy crap, and I think 27,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a lot, right? Like, that's a ton. That was my longest ever too. Was about 27 Ireland, and that was climbing a mountain, by the way. Like,
okay,
that was part of it. So like 20. If you weren't even climbing a mountain doing 27,000, my goodness.
Yeah, we were.
A new pair of shoes. Papa needs a new pair of shoes. Get this guy some Shacks.
We were huffing it for sure. We'll get our starting 5 shout outs. Reminder to get as part of the Average Joe Sports Show family. Jump on YouTube, like and subscribe there. Jump on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. And once maybe this season we'll get Kraynak back on social media. Maybe not. At Bill Doleman on Twitter, at Herbel Essence on Twitter, at Schmidt_radio on Twitter. But I've got a rundown here, man, as you've got Nebraska and kind of their vibe going into Big Ten Media Days. You've got this tug of war that will continue to exist as the SEC Propaganda Week wrapped up in Destin. And Brandon Vogel going to be with us from Counter Reed. Urban Meyer has weighed in on Scott Frost. What about Big Noon Kickoff and their potential addition? Has that officially been announced with Portnoy? I know that there was a lot of buzz and momentum.
Yep.
The last
he denied it and
days.
then was all over Fox talking about it. So I assume
what in the booth or pregame show? What's he doing?
Pregame for Big Noon Kickoff.
In the booth would be like, okay,
right.
Might have gone a little too far.
And we can kind of get into that big noon versus game day debate, because there's a lot of ways to start your college football weekend, and we know many of you do it with us down at the Graduate, which is
why are we promoting other shows?
But on a national scale, I mean, we all will have either big noon or college game day on behind us while we're doing our thing.
But you're forgetting about the major show, Big Ten Tailgate.
Yeah.
Yeah, how could you forget about Big Ten Tailgate? That's the one everyone wants to watch.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Big Ten Tailgate's good for
Big
sure.
Ten yeah.
It's
a nice studio.
We'll be ready. We'll be ready in Arrowhead for that for sure. But join Bill and me from Media Days on Tuesday and Wednesday in Las Vegas. As
the dynamic duo heading there.
Be ready to rock and roll with Nebraska.
Are the coaches
coverage.
ready? Are the coaches ready to answer the tough questions from you two?
No,
I don't know.
Because the F off, we're a big time program now, has been uttered back in not so subtle emails between Indiana and Illinois, the two programs that have had good seasons. Like, well, we'll try and send some people by. They'll probably
big time in you. Indiana and Illinois are big time in the Average Joe Sports Show.
Hell, over the years when Levy was head coach, Levy would pretty much make one of his three players sit down and co-host.
Yeah.
Illinois was just looking for a hug from somebody, right? And but now, we'll see. We'll work some magic.
I've been reading the emails back and forth with Chris, and
I've been kind of working.
Yeah, but it's like, well, it's gonna be pretty busy out there. Out there is media days, meeting the media.
Yeah,
and I'm not quite sure we're gonna be able to work that out. We'll see what we can. It's media days.
And I get, like, you'll have your Big Ten crews to deal with and talk with. You'll have your Fox shows. You'll have Schick and Sirius, and I mean, there's some high roller shows.
That's about it, though.
Totally understand.
When you're driving around just in America, how often do you see Illinois and Indiana stickers or shirts, right? Like, come on. It's not like they're dealing with a ton of interest. I would understand you getting a little bit big timed by like an Ohio State.
And they do.
Right. Because in Penn State or whatever, right? Because they have huge national
Penn
following.
State's always
we're talking about Illinois and Indiana.
Penn State's always sent players, and it wasn't that long ago when Penn State was back on this roll. They've always been, 10-win playoff fringe. But they gave us Franklin 2 or 3 years ago. If I remember right, Elijah. I mean, it's not that we haven't had Franklin before. Mm-hmm. So we'll fight like hell to bring you the best coverage. We're excited that Nebraska is going to have what they do there, and quite honestly, that's what many of you want to hear from. You want to hear from Rule, you want to hear from Dylan, and we'll do our best to get that set up. And they're so gracious with their time anyway. Nebraska and Keith Mann, they've been awesome every year for 100 years since we've been doing this since 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
So
well, here's
with the media days.
And why is everybody? When is this guy? When is Mark rolling out the Excel MWL in the stream? When is Mark rolling out the Excel file for the 2025 season predictions? Good memory from last year. That's coming soon.
Do we do that next weekend or do that mid-August?
I need time to create this Excel file.
Okay.
All right. Because there's borders and shading that you got to do. There's word wrapping. There's all kinds of things. And last time I was doing it live, and people were just like, "Oh yeah, watching Mark fumble through an Excel file is not super entertaining." But so, by the way, Illinois, right? They're sort of the it team. And I just feel like everybody just sort of regurgitates the same thing about Illinois. Like, oh, Illinois, it's going to be a year. Oh, pig farmers got everything going. And I get it because they bring a lot of folks back, right? And they had an impressive year last year. But when I look at their schedule, y'all, it's looking like 4-3.
Well,
by October 11th. Like,
there's a reason their win-loss total, their over-unders is what, 6.5?
7.
Yeah, 7.5. I mean, their schedule's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
it's fun. I mean, if they deliver on it, it solidifies what folks are, kind of hyping them up to be because of what's coming back. What's the sustainability, right? That's the biggest question is with Illinois and Indiana. What's the sustainability? But you look at the preseason all Big Ten teams, you've got a dude on every level, first through third team from Indiana. I mean, they've got a guy on the defensive line, a guy at linebacker, a guy in the secondary. They've got the second best wide receiver by many's prediction in the league as a first-team all-selection. They got a couple of linemen that they like. So, I mean, Cignetti's got a squad as well, and their schedule's a little more rigorous than Brandon Vogel with us here from Counter Read, counterread.com. Great work as always. And that's where I want to start off with Vogues. Vogues, what do you believe about Nebraska's schedule? Because that's a big element of what your success is. The pencil or pen you put in on your schedule poster every year in your Husker den or your garage. I love that tradition. But, Phil Steele, friend of the show, has gone through and says, Nebraska's schedule strength is most doable. It's the most favorable schedule when you look at some of the teams in the Big Ten. I think I saw it was ranked 63rd in the league. And Nebraska fans are like, well, that should mean 9 wins, but it hasn't meant 9 wins. So I want to start with you. Thanks for joining us, dude. Good to be back with you. And what do you believe about the schedule for Nebraska? Is it sneakily difficult, or is it just what it is, and it's more so up to Nebraska to kind of rise up?
Oh, I think for a Big Ten team or an SEC team, a team in either of those conferences, it's as good a schedule as it can be here in July. Based on what we think about teams, projections, however you want to do that, whether it's gut feel, whether you dive into power rankings, whatever. I mean, depending on which of those kind of rankings you look at, like the only game where Nebraska is like a sure underdog is Penn State and probably Michigan. But we'll see. Michigan plays Oklahoma right away in week 2, I think. True freshman quarterback, likely. A ton of studs still on defense, even though they continue to put a basketball team worth, at least in the NFL. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, but a lot of those games, so we can say Nebraska might only be an underdog in those two. Based on the way it looks now, things will change. But they're not huge favorites in a lot of the others. So I look at games like Minnesota on the road. Michigan State is a team that I expect to be a little bit better than it was a year ago. USC's kind of, I think, emerging as we've gotten deeper into the offseason as a pretty big wild card. Like there are some predictions for there are people who are like, oh, Lincoln Riley needs to win now, otherwise they're in trouble, which might be the case. There are also people who are like, this might be the 3rd or 4th best team in the conference, depending on what kind of quarterback play they get. So there's a lot of variability with it. And Nebraska kind of opens with one of those too. If you look at kind of those national power rankings, Cincinnati's not that far behind from where you'll find Nebraska. Nebraska is kind of a deserving favorite in that. There's been a light out on that game for a while. But, I don't even know if you can say deserving because really it's all projection at this point.
Don't you think the Maryland game is the more I look at Nebraska's schedule and you point out Michigan, Penn State, and I'm not sure about Michigan. Just they've lost so much since the Harbaugh national championship team. And I think that's a hat game. Maryland is the one that if I look at that thinking this is your trap, because you can go out to College Park and there will be nobody there. And if they're off to a bad start, they're not high expectations. And you go out there and you get caught up in the lack of atmosphere, like the old Northwestern Schnapp Stadium. I mean, I think Northwestern needs to keep playing games on the lake and just call it good. Yeah. But that Maryland game, I don't think they're going to be very good. I don't think the atmosphere is going to be very good. You got to travel out to the East Coast and play at a place where you don't play very often. You could sleep your way sleep your way into a loss over there.
I agree. I do not expect Maryland to be very good. In fact, I think they're kind of in trouble a little bit just with where that Loxley area is going. Although he continues to recruit really well, that part's never been in question. And I think that's kind of the thing with them. They're a volatile team that you go back 3-4 years and look at the Big Ten recruiting rankings. You got your top four you always expect to be there, and now you add USC and Oregon to the mix, who kind of out-recruit, recruit with Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Then Nebraska usually falls in there right behind that group, and Maryland's right there too. And for the entire time they've been in the Big Ten, going on their 11th season now, they're just extremely talented. But they're kind of an explosive play, negative plays on defense type of team, which leads to that volatility. But particularly, I think if Nebraska does beat Michigan at home, I mean that'll be a big game, of course, just based on the helmets, but also, when's the last time Nebraska won a game like that, whether they're a 3-point underdog or maybe a 3-point favorite. They'll have some momentum. Then they go on a bye week. They get Michigan State back at home, and then Maryland's the first road trip. So I think in terms of like Maryland's ability to hit some big plays, to be good in the secondary, to traditionally be good at wide receiver, plus just where it falls on the schedule, I think that would probably be my primary trap game designation for this 12-game schedule as well.
I'll say this about Loxley and Maryland. He has the ability on a given Saturday, to your point on the recruiting rankings, to have a guy that can just ruin you on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Whether that's a safety, whether that's a rush end that has a favorable matchup, or has a wide receiver, or maybe the quarterback gets hot, somebody that you just don't have an answer for that keeps them in a game and can go win it for you. And that's the biggest concern, because you put your 11 out versus their 11 on both sides of the football, and your special teams, Nebraska should be decidedly favored. But does it get sideways? Are you complacent? What's your focus like? Do you turn it over a little bit? Does the weather suck? Do you not want to be there? Are you looking ahead? Have you broken your arm, patting yourself on the back after your perceived start? You're still living on that Michigan win, perhaps, or potential. So, and you saw Maryland just do it when they snatched a win, a couple 3 years ago in Lincoln, somehow, some way, where it's a 13-10 ball game, and they had a couple of guys that they leaned on that are, by the way, are playing Sundays now. Loxley never has any problem bringing in NFL talent. They had 5 guys drafted last year.
Tagovailoa, that game was outstanding. I mean, he was very good throwing darts.
He was your difference.
And then to Brandon's point earlier about how they recruit, and it's just physical and how they look. But a lot of times I like to go down to the tunnel at halftime, right, so that you can see either the Nebraska players coming in or out. Take my son down there, and then you can make your way around to the visitors tunnel. And when Maryland came out, dude, that they have some really huge guys. Like they are not like they do not look like an also ran program. They look like a legitimate Power 5 outfits with some body types that Nebraska didn't have that year. You're just kind of like, damn, okay,
yeah,
right. And Brandon, I guess as the Big Ten and SEC continue to consolidate power, they're also consolidating recruits. And so these schools that I think, of fans of Nebraska, we kind of thumb our nose at those programs that maybe don't have near the tradition, like Purdue, like Maryland or whatever. But man for man, there's not a huge difference that I see between Nebraska and those teams.
Yeah, there's not. And, as you were talking through that, and as Chris was talking to, it kind of sent me back to the Purdue game a year ago, which, Nebraska turned the ball over a ton, but kind of fell at a similar spot in the schedule. It was one of those wins where you're like, okay, yeah, you go to Purdue and beat them because, Purdue would end up going 1-11 with just an FCS win. And Nebraska was in a fight, and any of those Big Ten games can get that way, but when I look at Maryland, and this is they're always going to be talented in the secondary. They've always got at least one receiver who pretty much any team in the Big Ten would be happy to have. And then early in their tenure in the Big Ten, they just seem to run roll out running backs who would average like 6.5, 7 yards a carry. I feel like in doing the season previews that I used to do, like it was almost copy and paste those early years for Maryland, because like, well, they went 5-7, but somehow they averaged 6.5 yards a carry, and they have three running backs back. So there's plenty of players in the area that frankly scare you in terms of one-on-one matchups. It kind of comes down to, well, can you play buttoned up football, and can you lean on an advantage in the trenches? Because I mean, that's the case with Maryland again this year. They brought in a ton of transfers up front on the O-line, which if you hit, you hit, but if you don't, it has the potential to go south pretty easily.
What's funny about Loxley, just real quick, and Schmidty, both guys are taking one or two guys away, either in the portal or in your recruiting region that a Rutgers or a Penn State wanted but didn't get. And that's just one more option you may not have on your roster, just like Schmidty between the portal and in the recruiting wars is taking guys that maybe you'd like to take a flyer on, or you would be a no doubt pick. They are. It's just more depth, more value in the league, as we know what Indiana's projected to be, and we're not sure what Maryland is going to be. Is Loxley going to get another year? I mean, that's kind of where we're at with that program. But they are both Saban disciples in the recruiting world, being on his staff for 100 years. So they know how to look for talent and know how to keep you from getting that talent if you're trying to acquire it. Go ahead, Elijah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Brent, on Thursday, Bill and I discussed a little bit with Nebraska and Cincinnati. Nebraska's ability to go and rise to the moment, because they have been bad at rising to the moment. I think we may have spent some time on that as well. But whenever you look at these potential trap games, these Marylands, these Michigan States, these games where you go, yeah, Nebraska should roll out there and have a talent advantage, not to call those other teams devoid of talent, but Nebraska, with the money they've invested in their roster, they should have the talent advantage. Do you think it could come down to Dylan Raiola in games like that as well, to bring the team along, even whenever you know, hey, you're not going to have your best stuff all 12 games in a season? That's true from everyone from Ohio State all the way down to Tulane. Like, not everyone's going to have their best stuff in all 12 games you play. Does it come down to, in your eyes, the quarterback Dylan Raiola coming out there and saying, you know what, I'm a 5-star. I'm the guy who's going to take a jump in year 2. I'm the guy who's going to lead this team to victory, even if my teammates don't have it?
Yeah, I think potentially. You look at the Purdue game last year, and it's really like, to your point, Elijah, you're not going to be excellent all 12 games typically. But are you below kind of your normal level and throwing more incompletions, or are you throwing interceptions? And it's things like that, and kind of goes back to, you can look at it on paper and say, well, this is kind of where we think Nebraska's trending. This is where we think Maryland's trending, or whoever it may be. That Purdue team, that was probably one of the worst Big Ten seasons I've seen in a while, what Purdue had last year and kind of leading up to that. But you still look at it, they sent transfers to Oregon. Year before that, they sent a transfer, a rush in to Texas A&M. That's what we're talking about in the Big Ten and the SEC too, of like, even if you're top to bottom 105 to 105, you should be a little bit better off. There's still guys, and ultimately, when you game plan and you do all that part of it, and at a certain point, if these games stay close, it comes down to just a guy making a play, and it's not hard to find a Purdue wide receiver who might have an advantage over even a Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State linebacker or safety, depending on the matchup. And that's it gets made fun of a lot, but like the game control piece of it, which the committee uses, is so important, of like just being in control, getting a lead, and being able to an exerted advantage that way, so you can avoid that situation where you end up with, well, they threw the ball up, it was a good pass, and their receiver was just better in our corner.
And part of Raiola's progression this year as a quarterback is going to have to do with how he fares against man-to-man defense. this isn't my original thought here. I was watching Pro Football Focus podcast where they broke down Raiola, just released in the last couple of days. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but really, and I'm paraphrasing, I might not have it exactly, but one of their things that they evaluated with Raiola was he was top 15 in the country in terms of completion percentage against zone defenses, right? Excellent against zone defenses. Bottom 15 against man.
Well,
right?
It was how teams attacked him last year. We talked about during the season. The defensive coordinators, as the season went on, when he went through that lull, they went man blitz. Anytime they wanted to take him off his game, it was we're going man up on the outside and we're bringing seven. And
we heard a lot of criticism about the receivers. You heard Rule say the same thing. Obviously, the Wonder Boy Doogie Howser receivers coach has moved on, and maybe that wasn't the best fit. So, Brandon, I'm bringing that up to mean if Nebraska is just able to hold serve against man and not be among the nation's worst, it just feels like to me when a quarterback is struggling against man, it's probably less on the quarterback and more on separation from the receivers. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's part of it. And I was kind of thinking along the same lines of, do you have a receiver now, and did Nebraska have a receiver on the roster last year who's just better than, say, half the Big Ten corners DBs he's going to face? And like, based on the numbers, and Nebraska was really creative in getting the ball. Like maybe Ja'Cory Barney was the closest they had to that. Like, which isn't to slight Banks and Nayor at all, because those guys were productive. They kind of did what you expected them to do, maybe a little bit below that. Do they have those guys now? That would be a big difference. But the other thing about it is and I'm usually pretty careful with like saying, well, Dylan Raiola is a freshman, so he'll obviously be better as a sophomore. That area specifically, though, I think is one where you would hope to see experience play a role, because you're a true freshman playing in the Big Ten, started every game. The easier piece of it is kind of, pattern recognition. Like you can be taught, and Dylan Raiola came in at a high level just based on, I think, his family and how much football he played and where he played. Of like, oh, that's 3 high shell, they're 2 high. I have a good idea. This is cover 3, cover 2, whatever. They go man. That's the part where I think experience comes in a little bit, not just recognizing that it's man, but like, oh, that corner can do this. And I need to be aware of that in terms of getting through my reads.
I'd be really curious to see what his statistics were from second half / overtime of Illinois through pre-Holgorsen. Like that stretch when Illinois decided to just send guys straight up the middle on him. You could tell he was not prepared for it. Like you could tell. And I don't think it's a composure thing with him. Composure doesn't seem to be lacking with Raiola. I think it was literally just he had not been prepared well for what to do in those moments, and he would just hold the ball and accept a sack.
Well, and he wasn't getting any help. I mean, no one got open to make a play. There wasn't a play call. You hear coaches talk about, all right, we've got a man beater here to dial up, right? They want to blitz us or send a certain look or a pressure. Fine. Here's your answer to that. And it was compounded because everybody watched that film, tried to replicate it, and you didn't get any better with your adjustment. And instead of having help, it was, all right, let's go to the next game and see it happen again. And then again, and then your confidence takes a bit of a hit because you're not used to it. So
he didn't have a receiving core last year. I think if you look back on it now,
he should have.
Right. There were high hopes for Jamal Banks to be the security blanket and I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to have a great catch radius that could make up for any mistake of a throw that the young freshman might make. You had
good red zone guy.
Yeah. You had Nayor, with experience, ready to prove himself after Wyoming and Texas.
Incredible athlete.
Yeah,
Yep.
And then you had Lloyd, who's world-class sprinter that it was supposed to be look, Lloyd's going to get open for you downfield, and he's going to break defenses and cause them to be cognizant of him. And none of that really materialized after what was the third game of the year last year? I mean, that UTEP, it was Colorado, but after UTEP and the first couple of games, it was Northern Iowa. Those guys were not dominant receivers, and that was the emergence of Ja'Cory Barney, who became the safety blanket. So there was everybody kept waiting all year long for Lloyd to break one. Just go flat out, throw it, catch it. This is going to happen once every couple of games, and that's going to soften up defenses because they have to be cognizant of his speed, the great catch radius and experience of Nayor and Bank. He never, ever had that. Now, whether he couldn't pull the trigger on a deep ball to Lloyd, I don't know. But none of that materialized, and as a result, Ja'Cory Barney is the most valuable player on that team. So this year, he has to have a better receiving core to rely on. Key is key. Hunter, a lot of the same things about those two guys last year are talked about with Hunter. Hunter's got to come through for him. And then you've got Mills, and you've got an experienced Barney. So there better be a much more reliable receiving core that is a threat that can help him beat the pressure up the middle, or if he gets flushed out of the pocket, that there's somebody besides Ja'Cory Barney to bail him out.
Mm-hmm. That's the goal. That's the thought. And that's the reason you made changes at coordinator and at wide receiver coach to coach some of the talent through the needed adjustments. And Brandon Vogel with us from Counter-Read, counterread.com, weekend edition of the Average Joe Sports Show. We've touched on a little bit here, the schedule thought. And Vogues, I know you spent time on it with Counter-Read with the Big Ten and the SEC. Wanted to kind of get your take on how both leagues are positioning themselves to do battle. The SEC's quite fine with not moving to a 9-game conference schedule, and it sounds like they're all right standing pat with just a 12-team playoff. I mean, it's not in their interest right now to expand and get level with the Big Ten. What's your reaction, or do you think cooler heads, so to speak, prevail with this? Because there's a lot of teams, conferences, better way to put it, that are also not interested in exerting themselves. And right now it's more so the Big Ten that's banging the drum for the automatic qualifiers because of the conference depth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see this week at Media Days what Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti has to say. Greg Sankey had his say, as he's always happy to do this week. It's as I sit back and look at it, it's kind of amazing to me how this one extra conference game in the SEC has kind of become the ultimate bargaining chip. Because what I wrote on Thursday at Counter Read was, I don't know that the Big Ten has a ton of leverage here, because if we're to assume that what they still want is automatic qualifiers expand to 16 and the SEC to play a 9th game, like they beat that drum a lot, like they're not going to get all those things because the SEC doesn't have to give them to them. So I kind of look at it now as, well, we can go with our preferred model, what Greg Sankey is now, the 5+11, just auto bids for 5 conference champions, and maybe go to a 9th game, or, maybe we're up here. I'm using my leverage, and we'll consider the auto bids, which isn't bad for the SEC. But maybe we'll stay at 8 games. So it's just this one thing that was kind of like an eye roll, previously about the SEC, like, oh yeah, they're not going to go to 9 because there's no incentive to do it, has now become actually valuable. And when I look at it from the Big Ten's perspective, kind of one of the only levers I think they have to pull is to cancel power conference games, which we saw Indiana do it with Virginia this week, which, like, based on where those programs are at and where we think we're headed, like those are winnable games for Indiana, very much so. but it's kind of like the only way you have to, because nobody likes canceling those games. Fans don't like it. TV doesn't like it. Conference commissioners say they don't like it. But right now it's kind of the hand the Big Ten has to play of like, okay, if you're not going to go to 9 games, if we're going to play 9 games, then there's no reason for us to continue playing power conference opponents. We'll just take our chances with the committee if we remain in an era where the committee decides who makes the playoff.
I'm interested too doesn't the Big Ten need some of those marquee non-conference games for the middle class? I mean, don't you want Michigan State taking on Notre Dame? Don't you want to keep USC and Notre Dame, just to give an example? I mean, we all still want Tennessee, Nebraska, not to pick that scab, but the middle class probably needs it more than anybody else. And what we're getting right now is a nice litmus test for Michigan to go to Oklahoma early on. I don't want those going away. But the other part of it is, what's the record look like if you're the Big Ten and you just stick to the 9-game conference schedules? You play some cream puffs, you schedule some really cool helmet/hat games on national TV. I mean, doesn't Michigan have a better record at the end of the year last year, despite, all right, the bump they got beating Bama in the bowl game and beating Ohio State? They lost to Texas. They played Texas out of the gate. But instead of being a 7-5 or 8-5 football team, they can kind of fake their way or massage their way to a lot more 9-win seasons if they do, in fact, pull out of this non-conference helmet game schedule that they've been pretty aggressive with over the years.
Yeah, it's in some ways, I think we're in a period where it's a lot of posturing, because we don't know, like, are we headed for automatic qualifiers? Because that changes a lot. Are we sticking with a committee? Because that changes things too. And it stands to reason that kind of the middle class teams would maybe need those games more, but I think it actually ends up being a little counterintuitive in that, are you better off being 9-3? I mean, we saw 9-3 Alabama left out a year ago. Are you better off being 10-2/9-3 and be like, well, we'll get left out on the strength of our schedule potentially? Or is it better to go 8-4 and count on the committee to say, well, they played 9 conference games. They played Tulane, a good, non-power conference team, and they played Alabama, and that's why they're 8-4. But we think they're still in. I think you have a better chance of like make them keep you out than make them put you in despite conventional wisdom.
You go the Indiana route.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. And those Virginia games are interesting because with where the program is at right now, like, do you get a ton of credit for beating Virginia? You can point to it and say they beat an ACC team, but beyond that, and for the Ohio States of the world, like there's a little risk, I think, for Ohio State and Texas to play early in the year. Alabama and Wisconsin play. You mentioned Michigan and Oklahoma. Like, you can recover from those if you start high enough. It's those teams in the middle where it gets a little bit more difficult.
Important question from Uncle Mark. Was Harry and Lloyd right? Are the French a-holes? Many waiters were not happy with how long it took the Schmidts to order. So yes. Yes. Vogues, what is coming up with Counter Reed, brother? Big Ten Media Days on the doorstep for us.
Yeah, so before that kicks off for Monday, I'm planning to look at quarterbacks, kind of a little bit of Raiola and some of the things we talked about here, but more so Dana Holgorsen and where his quarterbacks kind of were and also where they went under him, because I think that's a real important piece to some of the things we discussed here. And then rest of the week, we'll probably be digesting and breaking down what we hear at Big Ten Media Days, not just from Matt Rule, but it's also kind of a big stage all of a sudden for the Big Ten now to try and hold serve a little bit with what the SEC put out there.
That'll be good. Vogues will holler again next week. Appreciate you and awesome stuff as always.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
There is
Yep.
Brandon Vogel, Connor Reed. Get subscribed with him and Aaron Sorensen, ConnorReed.com. The Iron Horse back with us, Gary Sharp. Sharpie Claus,
Welcome
how
back.
are you? Good
Welcome
to see you,
back.
man. Thank you.
Yeah, USA.
That's about right. That's for sure about right. And the dollar is still highly valued. We just got to go make more of them now that we're back from vacation. What's Nebraska's narrative? What do you write some headlines for me? What do you think the orbit around Rule and Raiola and company are going to be Tuesday afternoon, I guess, is what we'll say when they get introduced?
So if you look at the day, I think Nebraska's trip to Vegas will be just like this offseason. It'll be relatively quiet, but it's starting to get loud. Like people are looking at Nebraska's schedule and they're looking at why isn't Nebraska talking? Do they have this quiet confidence? But think about it. Tuesday, you will have Tony Petitti, who will be loaded up to not do a propaganda tour, but a factual tour of back-to-back national championships. He'll respond to the SEC, the Big 12, anything the ACC has said. He'll talk about the Big 10. Then you have Indiana is there. Illinois is there. And then, oh, by the way, Ohio State is there. And then there is Nebraska. Sorry, Rutgers and Maryland. You know what? Just take the day off at Mandalay Bay. All right, go to the pool. I think Nebraska is a mystery team, and that's a good thing. I mean, we all can say, well, we think this, we know this, but we don't have enough to make an assumption or a factual statement about what they are, because that's been intentional, almost since spring football began. So I don't know. I think the tone for the season's already been set. I don't think the tone will be set in Vegas, but it'll be nice to talk football. It'll be nice to hear guys talk football because, guys, there have been more media access to the men's basketball program this offseason than there has the football program. When has that ever been the case?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I keep getting emails about Nebraska basketball availabilities. I'm like, wait, what? Are we having a resignation? What's summer league? Yeah, I've got more Nebraska basketball information this summer than I have Nebraska football, but I think Matt Rule is has a calculated message that he's going out to media days to deliver. I don't know what that's going to be. It might be college football playoff. It might be something with NIL and paying players or whatever. But I think of all the coaches in the conference, I think Ryan Day is also one who typically has something to say that's going to get people talking. He did that 2 years ago, and it was in the Columbus Touchdown Club about paying quarterbacks $2 million. But I think there's more calculation to Ryan Day than maybe people realize. But I think Matt Rule has something on his mind. Maybe I'm hoping so, more so than others who are going to look at media day as an obligation to do their 15-minute speech, come out to the Texas A&M marching fight song, and deliver their deal, say the same thing to whatever designated press row people they're going to talk to. I just think Rule's going to have something to say that's going to saber rattle the governance of college football.
That'd be okay. Brian checks in and says this: Matt Rule is going to be quiet with a mic in front of him. I doubt that. He'll have.
But think about it, though, guys.
Points he wants to hit.
He has said basically the same thing last year. I mean, he kind of got burned. If you go back and and how many times do we remember what coaches said at media day that are not Deshaun Foster? Right. I don't know if you guys will know this, but UCLA is in LA.
We're in Los Angeles. Let me get that down real quick.
He was pretty confident in his team last year. I don't know. They've, I almost at these things, and I know, they're more national than local that are there. I kind of want to hear him talk about his football team. I don't want to hear. I've heard enough about him in his idea of the things that surround college football. I want to hear about his current football team. I want to hear kind of particulars. What's going to happen at right tackle? What's going to happen at backup running back? How do the tight ends look? How does Dylan look? How does the defense? How's everybody getting along? New staff, all that kind of stuff. I know that's not really sexy for the national people, But that's what I like the most when we get to these media days is now it's time to talk about your particular team and get maybe some insight before we get into speed dating of camp, before we get to Arrowhead.
Speaking of which, for media days, I just want to
speed dating.
I want to see if we can. I want to see if everybody knows this. You know, Watson Trent, the linebacker transfer from Georgia Southern. Mm-hmm. Pronounce his first name.
Marquise.
Mm-mm-mm.
No.
Go on.
Marcus.
Marquez.
Bam. Unless the PA announcers and the people that do Georgia Southern video were pronouncing it wrong, which is possible. I don't know how their SID is. I don't know if they get
deep dive were you doing last night on Georgia Southern?
I was trying to get. I'm trying to get ready in different ways, and because you look, he's rated by Pro Football Focus again as the second highest rated returning linebacker in the Big Ten. Returning loose, obviously, I guess but out of all the linebackers in the Big Ten, he had the second highest grade. Granted, it was at Georgia Southern. So I wanted to deep dive on him. I wanted to watch his highlights, see what he's about. And he goes by Marquez. Same spelling as Marquise Buford. Totally different pronunciation. I just wanted to make sure Chris and Bill in particular, or Gary, are you going to Big Ten media? Are you going to Vegas? Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure you two knew before you embarrass yourselves in front of Matt Rule.
Gary Cohorn would like a word.
Yeah, exactly. So just so y'all know, it's Marquez. And by the way, have y'all watched much of him? It's okay if you haven't.
Yeah, he played in the final game that Scott Frost coached in Memorial Stadium.
And he played well.
Yeah, he did. Dude, there is a little bit of Levante David to that guy.
See, the name I had, which isn't a perfect comparison, was Jay Higgins from Iowa, because what Levante also had was like an overwhelming amount of athleticism from the linebacker spot. And I don't necessarily see that from Watson Trent, but he has that like see the play before it happens type thing that Levante has a little bit, where he's in the hole and you're like, how did you already know where the hole was going to be? It hasn't even developed and you're already there. That's kind of what I see from him, but without the overwhelming speed sideline to sideline that Levante had.
That I think that's a pretty apt description. And I think it's not like Levante was a huge hitter, like splash play hitter. He had a couple, don't get me wrong, like Penn State stoning the guy on a fourth down. Obviously he could hit, but he's just a very good tackler, right? The guy goes down, and it isn't necessarily some bone jarring hit, but the ball carrier goes down. That's how Marquez rolls too, right? He gets his hands on you, it's over. He also had quite a few sort of havoc plays of stripping the ball, which is another David specialty, a pick six, intercepting balls, kind of an emotional leader type too, gets in the backfield a lot. He's impressive. Yeah, I don't know how well it's going to translate to Big Ten, but it's not going to be his first rodeo either. He's played against Big Ten competition and performed pretty well. But that's nice to think that you have. I mean, he was like Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Year by one measure. There was another guy from can't remember exactly the school that won most of the Defensive Player of the Year honors. It was a draft pick last year, but I don't know. He looks pretty impressive, and that linebacker core in particular, Nebraska's been reliant on walk-ons there, and they've been pretty good. Reimer, right? Last year, God, why does his name escape me? Super Paint guy, brother was a receiver.
Bullock,
yeah. Thank you. Right, and those guys performed well. They totally maxed out, right? They did what you hoped they would do, but that position in particular, Nebraska might have some dudes. And if we think about like most improved areas of Nebraska offensively and defensively, where do y'all, Gary, where do you put linebacker just in terms of upgrades in talent?
Well, I think you're missing one guy who we expect to have a monster year, and that's Vincent Shavers. Yeah. The one thing I worry about Watson Trent, and he's in the right place at the right time, is he going to get washed out in the Big Ten? He's a little bit of an undersized linebacker. Yeah. And so playing that position in this conference, but the thing about Levante David played on the outside. Levante David will tell you for the first half of his career, he had no idea what he was doing. He was just so athletically gifted He just happened to be in the right place, and he would just go and make plays before he understood what he was supposed to do on defense. But I think that linebacker room, a lot of it will be predicated on Javen Wright. If little Buddha can have a big year, I mean, he's in his 7th year, and when he's healthy and he has no complications, we're not talking about blood clots, we're not talking about any other injury. When he's out there just playing, I think he can be really, really good. And if he can be consistently good, then I think that helps the other two. But it's a well-coached room. I mean, Rob Dvorak is a really, really good position coach. So I don't worry about them cratering anything. But it's funny, we don't talk about who I think is the best guy that's going to have a monster year, and that's Vincent Shavers. But Watson Trent will benefit from playing next to Shavers, and I think Shavers will benefit from playing next to Watson Trent. It's just they're going to need the defensive linemen to keep those guys clean.
You nailed it. It's all about the interior and what is reality for Nebraska's defensive line up the middle to help the linebackers. I love the linebacker room, though. Watson Trent, super athletic. Shavers, a lot of potential based on what he did last year. Buddha, huge. I mean, he's a monster. His body frame is impressive. But how about McCullough and McGahee? I love that 1-2 punch is exciting if you're a Nebraska fan with the athleticism and strength and speed combo of each guy coming off the edge to go kill someone's quarterback.
And that's where I was going to go, because I have my doubts. Whenever you look at that linebacker room, McCullough, McGahee, Shavers, Watson Trent, Javen Wright, like, it feels to me hard for Nebraska to go play a 3-3-5 whenever I think the strength of their defense could be that linebacker core. And I know that's kind of, people are going to wait and see what it looks like at Arrowhead against Cincinnati, but it feels to me like a true 3-4 with the personnel Nebraska has makes a lot more sense, especially considering that rover spot fit Isaac Gifford pretty well. Is there a guy that fits into that role this year, hand in glove? I don't quite see it. I think a 3-4 defense, and again, we'll see what it looks like. Butler might be a little bit more multiple, which, I mean, that's kind of the point of the 3-3-5 is you can kind of fit your defense in. And Rule said they're not going to change up from that. But whenever I look at the personnel, 3-3-5 doesn't seem to fit the personnel as well as just a true 3-4.
Well, it's going to be up to Butler to put his signature on whatever Nebraska's defense is. I can't imagine that a guy who has had the longevity as a coach, both collegiately and then spent time in the NFL, is going to go, okay, well, I'm just going to do what the last guy did in his first, major defensive coordinator position role. I would think Nebraska's defense is going to evolve into something that he's much more comfortable with.
Yep.
I have not gone back, and I apologize, to look at Penn State's defenses when Butler was there coaching in the collegiate ranks, if that was more of a 3-4. But I would think that maybe because of personnel, they are, I'm not going to say married to the 3-3-5, but at least in a steady relationship. So that next year you might see something evolve into what Butler wants it to be. Again, you've got Phil Snow there as being the defensive coaching liaison to Matt Rule. So the 3-3-5 was the defense that Tony White wanted to implement. What does John Butler really, really want to do? I think that's the long-term perspective on defense.
And don't you guys look at this defense and the guys that Elijah rattled off in the middle? They're more athletic than they were last year, and they will be. I think they'll attack more because of their athleticism.
Yeah,
I think they'll be more attacking than reacting, and it actually may benefit some guys on that defense that's their strength. But last year they just weren't built to do that. But across the board, from the first level to the back end, I think this is the most athletic defense that Rule has had.
He has options. He has plenty of guys that are big, fast, and can cause some matchup problems. Gary Sharp with us here. Weekend edition of the Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe on YouTube with the Average Joe Sports Show, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play for the podcast, and also on Twitter, AJ Sports Radio. Sharpie, let's back up a second. I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the headlines. With Portnoy and Big Noon. Do you have a reaction? Do you care? Too? Also, what about Saban? Do you think he eventually gets back into college football?
No, into college football.
Okay.
Unless it's I keep my hands in it and I consult and be an analyst. I just can't see him get back on the field at the age of 74.
Okay.
I mean,
I still think the spot for him is college football czar. Go run some things and get this moving in the right direction.
Coach McBride said that's what he wants to do.
I mean, I think he's probably for right now got the ideal job. He's still got an office at Alabama. Those guys bend his ear, so he doesn't have to be out on the field, but he can give them some advice. I'm sure that he picks up the phone for a lot of coaches around the country, and he gets to go and talk football for 3 hours a day on game day. And he's become a star on that show. Back to Portnoy. So I think it's a really smart move by Fox from this standpoint, is whether it be McAfee's audience or Barstool, they are very, very loyal, and they will follow them wherever they go. Even if you don't like ESPN, McAfee goes to ESPN, you're like, I'm a McAfee fan, I don't care. You're a Barstool fan, you're a Stoolie, and you go, Fox, ESPN, screw that. They screwed over Big Cat and PFT. I'm not going to watch anything on regular TV. And now you're an addition, and so you're like, I'm going to follow him. This is what I don't know. And Fox is playing a game here because they're trying to grab a younger audience. And they know they're in a battle with game day, but they're also in a battle with, guys, how much pregame do we watch from start to finish anymore, like we used to back in the old day? But is Portnoy going to be a guy that sits on the set like a McAfee or Saban, or is he going to be a guy that comes in and gives you a segment or two? Because he's very polarizing, good and bad, and they just have to determine, is he a turn on or a turn off? I can tell you, they have ratcheted up the Fox against Ohio State battle to a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm here for it, but it's it's a very also savvy move to drop that announcement when they did, because what starts Tuesday, and who will be there Tuesday?
TDA. Yeah.
It'll be Fox talking about their relationship with the Big Ten, and they roll out some of the people that are, their frontline people. Now they got something to talk about. So it's a really smart move. It'll be curious to see how the rest of the Big Ten embraces a guy that is clearly a Michigan booster, financially and emotionally.
If they were going to go with a personality to battle ESPN and what they have with McAfee, I would have to think Will Compton was on that short list because of his brand he's built up, but also the fact the guy knows ball, and quite frankly knows more ball than Portnoy.
Yeah, that's the other thing you have to work. Like you can add McAfee and guys give him the side eye, but McAfee at least played. He played at West Virginia, played in the NFL. Portnoy is a fan, and maybe that's an element that we want, and maybe we're headed that in our business where, it used to be, hey, don't show that you're a fan of a specific team. Now it's okay to say, I'm a fan of that team. But like Urban Meyer, like Herb Street, kind of Desmond Howard, they will take a crack once in a while at their alma mater. Will Portnoy do that?
Well,
because he's
if
Mr. Pro Michigan.
You're getting into something really fascinating, though.
You start out 2-2, he will kill him.
But you're getting into something fascinating about journalism versus opinion television and radio, right? The same with network news. You have the opinion hosts. What do we got here? They might have a McAfee of Portnoy, but they damn sure don't have a Schmidty Elijah Bill.
Black Hills Brennan check is in the mail.
Hell yeah, Brennan. Thank you.
It'll be a small check, but thanks.
But right, you look at like network news, and Hannity and like Don Lemon or whoever on the different networks, like those are opinion guys within a news looking format. It just looks like news. It's on a news channel, but those are opinions. That's different than having the journalistic integrity to not root that. And that's where that applies, right? Like that's where, and so if you're I don't need him to be a journalist because he's not. And it's an opinion host. It's like a column, right? It's like a Tom Chattel column or something, right? It's just, you don't need to have that objectivity, I guess. In the booth, play-by-play, color, sidelines, different story, right? On a national telecast, you have to have that journalistic integrity, that unbiased, whatever. But those opinion shows, why not have somebody that's really good at sharing opinions? if that's what the whole show is about.
Look, it's
right?
gonna come down to chemistry on that. And there's one thing that McAfee has, and it's the Adderall ridden approach to things. I mean, he's high energy, and that's a 3-hour show. And granted, he's not on every single segment, but he can bounce off a wall, and he can play in any sandbox that they put him in and just throw out some type of energetic, type comment and, play the whole field goal game and the way he does his picks and gets the crowd going and all that kind of stuff. Portnoy has created a massive media empire. Credit to him on that. But 3 hours of Portnoy, I'm not sure is the chemistry with which on Fox is okay, and it's not great on the Espen show, but I can't see 3 hours of Portnoy bringing the energy from beginning to end and having that spontaneous, moment that could go viral. I think he's calculated. The other thing about the Stoolies are the Stoolies. It's not just him. It's that little army of guys and all of his loyal lieutenants that are also part of the show. Yeah. And McAfee, even though he's got his guys on his show, he's still it. I think Portnoy, it's the angst of the bad beat and all that play into that. They're not going to be in this set. So Dave Portnoy's 3-hour chemistry with Urban Meyer or whoever else is on that show, Rob Stone, I'm hoping it's more small doses than they're just trying to jam it down everybody.
I think
depends on what kind of Adderall he takes. Is it the short release or the long release? Who knows? Short release, he's good.
Spoken like a man with ADHD.
It looks like an addition of a Barstool personality, and I think it's a wise move by Fox to partner with Barstool because they're looking for the younger audience.
True.
And I worry, they're great in what they do in their forum because they're not neutered. Okay. And will they have the same non-guardrails that a McAfee has? If they do, okay, then they look very similar to what I see on my phone when I stream their shows, like Mostly Sports. And I like Brandon Walker. And I like Big Cat. I like those guys. Like McAfee, what you see on his show is what you get on game day, right? Mm-hmm. That's the personality doesn't change. So that's a big thing. But I think
I'll say, I think the guy to get from Barstool would have been Big Cat. That would have been the guy to go and put on that show. I think he would have fit a lot better. But
I do too. And Dan loves college football. Now they all like college football, which goes a long way. They're not NFL guys talking about college football. They love college football. But I think what happened with Fox and, Fox, as people got upset at game day, and they got ticked off at Desmond Howard, and they weren't buying Reese Davis replacing Chris Fowler. And, then they got agitated by Herb Street. Then they add McAfee, but adding Saban has put game day over the top because I think I noticed this on Fox. I really liked Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer and that show separated themselves before Urban Meyer went back to the NFL. Mm-hmm. But since Urban Meyer has come back from the NFL, I think he's better in his comments on teams and the sport when he's not on that set, when he's doing podcasts and he's doing other interviews. And he doesn't have that same oh man, did you hear what Urban Meyer said? So I don't know. I think is it McAfee against Portnoy? Is it Saban against Urban Meyer? Or is it just simply ESPN against Fox? It's the SEC versus the Big Ten.
Or is it the traditional media streams that you have pregame versus a changing media market?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I have here is they're all looking for attention. They're all looking for eyes in a time whenever people, the way they consume media has changed. And what do you do in pregame? Are you listening to the national show? Or are you listening to the podcast from your favorite team, such as the Average Joe Sports Show, previewing the game that you really care about in depth?
Well, there's a ton of choices, and we love being a choice for many. Another year here for Nebraska football 2025. Sharpie, before we get you out, I got to ask recruiting. Not a huge shock, but Valdon Sony is off to Georgia. There was so much work put in by Nebraska to land this defensive line talent. He's raw, but, man, he's a guy that folks have been all over. It's not done, per se, because it isn't signing day, so Nebraska could get a 12th hour flip. That's optimistic if you're a Nebraska fan, but that's what they'll try and do. Georgia's just done too well, brother, putting first, second round guys into the league. And you see this rotation of 2 to 3 Bulldogs coming off and playing in that A gap for Philly, your Super Bowl champs. So not a shock here because of the stage. That was the difference maker. I think Nebraska was right there money-wise to stay competitive for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to that because you're spot on. I mean, Georgia's a defensive line school. You know, why wouldn't you go to Georgia? Now, here's the thing. I think he's going to stay with Georgia. That's just my opinion on the little background that I know on Nebraska's recruiting of him. And Nebraska, you know, Nebraska lost out to a bag with Calvin Thomas last Saturday and went to North Carolina. Yeah. They did a really good job in getting him to move away from Texas. And then North Carolina, which, you know, earlier this week got an Ohio State DB to flip. So Ohio State's going to go searching back onto their DB board. Nebraska's going to have to, you know, dig in with Danny Odom, I think. Yep. But, you know, they had a chance with Calvin Thomas. Then all of a sudden the bag comes in. I think in this case, Nebraska was very aggressive because they need a defensive lineman, a high school defensive lineman. And Georgia just said, look at our wall here. Have you seen this guy and how much money they're making in the NFL? And I think that was a draw. But a couple of things on Nebraska recruiting. One, the one thing during this cycle of defensive line recruiting, and Nebraska's kind of swung for the fences and they have struck out, is they have a position coach who is just starting to cut his teeth in recruiting. We are intrigued by his on-field because of his background, but the recruiting stuff is different in Braden. He's kind of like a Terrence Knighton. You know, some of the things we questioned about Terrence Knighton when he came from the NFL and followed Rule, they kind of got shored up by year number 2. And maybe that happens with Terry Braden. But look at the kind of subtle, quiet addition they made as the director of recruiting this week in Anthony Johnson.
Yep.
Was at Pitt, wasn't very long at Michigan. But the thing they do at Michigan is you help out with certain positions in recruiting. So he helped out with not only the on-campus defensive lineman, but future defensive linemen in recruiting. And so I wonder if he helps out in that area because, you know, if you don't get high school defensive linemen, those guys that are in the portal that can help you, they cost quite a bit if you need a game changer. The other thing about recruiting, and I think Nebraska will be, you know, in Nebraska, it's again going to have a small class. And it's just going to mean they got to hit some home runs and not have any defections. But I think if I'm Nebraska and I'm sitting in November and I've had a good year and kids who I've been selling my vision to can see where this is going, look at some high-profile coaches that if their season doesn't go well, they're going to get the ziggy. There also is probably money that is fake money out there that there could be just a crazy November, early December decommitments flips. And if I'm Nebraska and I'm sitting there, I might be in a really good spot if I have some spots open and I have some money to spend as well.
No,
you want to keep guys in the fold
through.
You want to keep guys commitments at least solidly in pencil, you know, into the football season. So, and I go back to the Christian Jones recruitment. We talked about it before. It happened after the Colorado game. If Nebraska gets out, has a good game on national TV in whatever it is, week 0, week -1 on that Thursday night, then you get past Akron and Houston Christian, you're going to have a national stage again against Michigan. And if Nebraska has a big day, great show, the whole product is enticing, you could see the reaffirmation of commitments. You know, maybe I will put this thing in pen and I'm yours for the rest of the season. You might get some guys who are on the fence decide, yeah, that's where I want to go. But you've got to hold them until people can start to see the product on the field again. You know, then, and if Nebraska gets off to a good start and maintains, then you would think that those commitments are a little more solid. But there's nothing. Commitment means absolutely nothing. And Chris already, you know, indicated that with the opening question. Well, he committed to Georgia. Nebraska's now got to work on trying to flip him. That's what they're doing with every single recruit. You mentioned Odom and Ohio State. Georgia got the dude from Sweden because somebody left Georgia to go to Texas. I mean, it's just the way of the world. But if Nebraska gets off to a good start through September, the recruiting class probably solidifies a little bit more.
Well, and the thing with Anthony Johnson, to your point, Sharpie, is
it's great timing.
With Anthony Johnson, that guy was incredible. Yeah, you're Michigan, and you have the ability to go in and kind of pick who you want. But those guys thrived, and they've all been drafted, most of them, the last 3 or 4 recruiting cycles with what Michigan brought in. Big get for Matt Rule and company with Anthony Johnson. You pair him, you send him out on the road, and you tag team it with him and Coach Braden. You get some wins on the field, things can start to look up on that defensive line.
And you bring Hausman back. Maybe he can do that. Maybe he can bring Hausman back. But guys, it was good timing because we're talking about results on the field, and I've spent the majority of the show formatting the spreadsheet.
Are we ready to go today?
No. This is just a preview of what's happening. I tried to go with the color themes, right, with the red and the black, but I got to go deeper into the color picker so that it's legible. And so I went with just like a softer blue and softer green today, just for legibility. And we're going to add a 1 in each column, which will give the total at the bottom of how many wins. And maybe we can break this up. We could back time it, right? Because we have 5 weeks left, something like that.
5 weeks to week 0.
Wow. So maybe we can break it up into 4, right? It's 12 games. So we'll do three games each week and just kind of build it up as we go and arrive. So instead of just starting with the question, what do you think the record is going to be? We're going to go game by game and find out what we think it's going to be. I've included the bye week for reference there. And then obviously the Big Ten title game all the way through the Natty, which maybe we wait on that part until Nebraska makes
until at least the Cincinnati game. I think after the Cincinnati game, we can dive into postseason for sure.
At that point, we'll know.
Yeah,
if it's Natty time or not. Yep. So I went with a different font. I think this one is it says Aptos Narrow, but I don't think that's what I chose. But anyways, so we got that to look forward to.
Great opportunity here, as you see at the top. Opportunity for a sponsorship. You want your business name on the Average Joe Sports Show sure to go wrong?
Yeah, it's brought to you by a lot of sponsors, and there's still a couple spots left. And so if you want to join that NASCAR hood of a sponsor list, then come on.
I can't wait till our first tailgate down in Kansas City where we're all wearing different shirts. One of us will have a Tide shirt on. One of us will have a Pfizer shirt. One of us will have a Budweiser shirt.
Big Pfizer guy.
I'll also wear the Wolf shirt, honestly.
You'll keep the Wolf shirt, but you'll have a collar sticking out that says, I don't know, Red Bull or something. I don't know.
So let me throw out this question. I brought it up on my show yesterday. This is for all 4 of you and anybody else. There is nothing below 8 wins that keeps people happy going into next year, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's a hard 8, dude. Hard 8 minimum.
And if it is 7-5, it better be like dogfight 7-5. Nebraska got robbed by an official late in a game or something.
It better be an injury situation where you're down to third team.
Yeah, like Penn State.
A lot of
Terminators
are starting.
Yeah. No, it needs to be it. Yeah, it can't be like a 7-5 with those losses being Frost like, where it's just you crap.
Can't be management issue losses.
Yeah, you can't get anything done at the end of a game, sort of thing. It can't be that. But if a receiver catches a ball a yard out of bounds and they call him in, like Penn State 82, okay, right? Like
there's some
a little bit of a different 7-5.
Or a Nebraska wide receiver makes a play on a 50-50 ball, and that's win number 8,
and it's not intercepted in the end zone. Yeah.
Yeah,
because that schedule you brought up just reiterates the point. And I know you got to play one game after another. The Cincinnati game, I think, is one of the bigger games Nebraska plays all year. Just because if Nebraska is different, that game looks different compared to the previous 5 Power 4 teams that you've opened up with. The fact that Nebraska does not play a true road game until the middle of October and maybe only plays one hostile road game, and that's at the end of the year when you've already established your identity. I mean, what are we talking about? Somebody gave a gift to Nebraska this year. It's just, will they open it or will it stay under the tree when it comes to a schedule?
Million dollar question I have looking forward at this schedule is, will Nebraska be shaking hands before games every single year this year? Will they actually have the courtesy to do that? Get things on the right foot?
Why, Elijah?
I just want to see how many, pregame prayer options there are and how many more armed guards are enacted. Is the National Guard going to be called before Nebraska heads to
Okay. So I'll play along here. Because this is a Cincinnati home game, but essentially it's a Nebraska home game at a neutral site. Does anybody get upset if, I don't know what the midfield logo will be. Like, will it just be like a Kansas City Classic logo? Will anybody get upset when Nebraska goes around the midfield logo?
No, because it's not going to be
because you don't know. Like Cincinnati doesn't know. Do we defend it? Do the Chiefs personnel run on the field and they defend it?
Chris Jones is going to run out there and level somebody.
The groundskeepers go, "Oh, you can't do that. We don't do that in the NFL."
It'll be the chef's guy, the chef's end zone painter guy.
Well, that's it. The end zone will have to be protected that says Cincinnati on it.
Well, one end zone will be corn stalks and the other end zone will be chili.
Okay. Nice.
Hey, Kansas has opened up the door now for, theme-related end zones with their wheat end zone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they had a wheat end zone. That's great.
It's actually pretty cool looking.
You said wheat, Kraynak.
Oh,
but I don't believe.
Why'd they miss that opportunity?
What I've read on TikTok is that it is not legal in Kansas, but it is legal in Missouri.
Right. That's what you read on where?
TikTok. I read on TikTok.
You don't read on TikTok.
This is
a lie. No, this is you watched it. Watched it.
You know what will be the 6 weeks from this, or now 5 weeks from this upcoming Thursday, I think there will be two very, very popular places driving to Arrowhead. One will be Rockport, because you got a nice dispensary on the left.
Fireworks.
Well, that's on the right.
Dispensary.
That's on the right. Also, you can order ahead at that dispensary in Rockport, and then they have a drive-through window. You can just pick it up on the fly.
Did you also learn that on TikTok?
No, I learned that in person. And then I went with somebody because I wanted to go get Yingling, which is in the truck stop across the other side of the interstate.
Look at you going bandit. I love it.
And Gary, you don't even seem super high right now at all.
No, I went with somebody. I stood in the corner while they were at the kiosk.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I gotcha. So you went sativa today. Indica couch, right?
I'm not sure what that is. I've never heard about that.
Yeah.
The other popular stop will be if anyone goes Chiefsaholic, a bank in St. Joseph's. We'll see about that.
Whoa.
Nice.
And then the Quick Trip in Platte City.
That is classic, and then the Waffle House too on the way back.
Well, you got the Waffle House in St. Joe, which isn't that like close to a Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, they're usually.
And then there's also the Waffle House on the northwest side of Kansas City.
Yes, like as you're still going on 29.
I believe that's the sketchier one.
Hey,
it is, but it's still good.
Well, there's one by the airport.
I haven't been to a Chiefs game since the strike year against the Chargers when I was in like 7th grade. That might date me a little bit. It's been a long time.
They've had some good success since then.
The old John Malkovich era.
Yeah, honestly,
Bill Kenny is no longer playing quarterback.
I have not been to. I know. I have not been to a Chiefs game.
Fuller.
I had an Art Still police card. It was great.
Deron Cherry. Good work.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Oh, I had Deron Cherry too.
That's when the cops handed out cards, Chief cards and Husker cards. What happened to that?
So logistical advice, which I know I could read on TikTok, but for folks that have been to Chiefs games recently, like how early do we have to arrive to park? Because the traffic is crazy, right? It's like the biggest parking lot in America. And everybody going at the same time.
It's got one entrance.
Yeah, like what time? If kickoff's what 8?
8.
Mm-hmm. Are you rolling down with us or not?
I'm rolling down. I don't know about with, but it depends on when we're leaving and stuff. I got to get the kid. Because I got to get the boy out of school. He's going. Right?
Why does he have to go to school?
He didn't even have to go to school that Thursday. It's a holiday.
Well, I appreciate y'all, figuring out his.
We'll write a letter.
Thanks for contributing to his education and everything, guys. I really appreciate it.
It's only the first week. We're good.
But I don't know if I want him taking education advice from average Joes, right? Like that's not the goal here, right? We want above average Tanner is what we're going with.
Junior's got a 10:30 class that Friday morning. So.
Guys, no one's going to work on Thursday. No one's going to work on Friday. And then we have a holiday weekend and we have a banger of a Saturday college football schedule. It's okay if you take life off for a couple of days to enjoy some Husker football.
Oh, then
thanks for the judgment.
I have my fantasy football draft that Sunday night too. It's a whole weekend. We got folks flying in from across the country for the draft. We might be getting a keg. It's gonna be a good time.
Do y'all have smartphones? Like, I don't know if they have to fly in, but that's great.
It's a tradition.
Okay, that's good. So, seriously, what time do we have to roll up? Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's gone.
There he is.
Hey,
there he is.
Oh,
are you going to class that first Friday? Oh, he says, yeah. So he'll.
That'd be the first week of school, so I would say no.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, honestly,
okay. So
kickoff's at 8. Rush hour is what it is.
Well,
what time do you have to enter the largest parking lot in America? What time?
So, I think probably the most recent person on the panel that has been to a Chiefs game and goes on the reg, the parking lot for Chiefs games opens up 4.5 hours prior to kickoff.
So it might be.
How does one get in earlier than that to set up a tailgate?
I don't know. They are pretty like for now. It may be a little bit different for a college game, but for the Chiefs game, 4.5 hours prior, and people line up at the gates. Now, when I went to the Taylor Swift concert, I'm pretty sure the parking lot opened earlier than that. Okay. So I'm not sure what the exact time is, but 4.5 hours before Chiefs game. Also, another tip: buy parking ahead of time.
Okay.
Now parking's probably going to be about $50.
There's like 3 different levels.
If you pay for the $50 parking, you're going to be fine. Okay.
What about RV parking?
Do you have more of a smoother entry? If you're the $50 parking, you don't have to stay in line with the commoners. Is that kind of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we could bring an RV. Yes.
But there is. I will say this, and I'm not going to give. If you know, you know. Do not get off at the obvious exit for Arrowhead, which is by the K. A lot of people just go all the way. They think they're going to the K. They're just going to get off there. Work some back channels to go in the back gates of Arrowhead because those are less trafficked. Mm-hmm. There's still going to be traffic, but
yeah. Well, now you just ruined it. Now everybody's going to
because there's multiple places that are not off of 70.
Mark's
where you get off there a little bit earlier.
We don't have that many listeners, Mark. We're okay.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I've seen that. Have you seen the statistics?
No, we have good numbers. Don't get me wrong, but we don't have enough to change the traffic flow of 80,000 people.
Have some faith, bro. Have some faith.
It's not in mid-July.
There you go with your facts again, Elijah. Back to the journalism thing. Okay, so we want to get there. If you roll up by 4, are you good?
I would think so.
If you roll up at 6, you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
You're going to be
there
in the
at
car
3 with our Snitley boys and hunkering down for the Average Joe live from Arrowhead, and then the Average Joe before dark, and then the Average Joe after dark.
So you're going to do the 4 to 6 normal. So you got to be there way early, and then you got to do
7. Probably we got to get things coordinated with Mr. Spindler.
Yeah,
because he's on set with us.
Perfect.
And then we lead up to 7 o'clock.
How many mics you got? Headsets. We got to make sure we. Grease everybody at the station to no, sorry, you're not taking. We need all of them.
No,
we need a big mixer with probably at least 8 inputs.
I have that handled. Done.
Okay,
it's already handled.
All right,
and then we'll do.
You can't be doing that trading headset stuff. That happens sometimes. It's just right. I know.
Yeah,
I know. That never works out well.
Charm to the ghetto-ness, okay?
There is. Hey, the other thing, once you're in the stadium and in the game, so what are we thinking? 11:30, the game will be over. Mm-hmm. Good 3.5 hour game on ESPN. It takes a while to get out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I would say have tailgate 2.0.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay. And then get back to the hotel around 2 a.m.
And then be ready for a morning show at 6, right, Sharpie?
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, speaking of, I think y'all can take the day off. It's a holiday weekend.
No, hell
and
no.
everybody's getting out of school.
Morning after a Husker game?
You got to do it.
Yeah, but everybody's going to be tired. Everybody's taking the week off, right? That's what y'all said.
We'll just go straight through.
You understand that if they lose the game,
I was just
there will be no buffer between going to bed at
DEFCON
2 and 6. It'll still be, the show will still be going on.
Yeah, this is where that sativa comes in. Yeah, you guys are going to need to have some energy.
Curious that you know a lot about stuff you read on TikTok.
Well, listen, I don't have the exact exits in Missouri to stop and then know whether or not there's drive-throughs. And hot kettle black over here. I mean,
hey, they have billboards in Omaha that are like an hour away in Rockport.
They have billboards in Lincoln.
Yeah.
That feels like a loophole that's going to get shut down.
Is it Greenleaf? It starts with a G.
Light.
Green light.
Because it's as you're coming in on Rosa Parks Way into town, it's there's one right there. I'm pretty sure it says keep on heading out to Rockford. Yeah.
So Mark, you can order ahead. You get off at 29, you go to the stop sign, you take a left, you go across 29, you take a right, you can't miss it, it's right there. Okay. And you can drive through and you give them your name and then they give you your order. It's just like you're picking up some food. And then you go across to the other side to the truck stop where they've got a little bit of everything.
I need to read TikTok more often because this is important information.
Hey, speaking of traffic at the game, is it anticipated that Mr. and Mrs. Swift will be at the game?
Right. There's a high likelihood, right?
I mean, given that Jason Kelsey is like Cincinnati's most famous beer chugging graduate.
Well, I'm thinking Travis will probably be there. I'm not sure about Taylor. I bet you Mahomes makes it as well.
Yeah.
So
the Chiefs are already done with preseason games by that Thursday night.
They're both there.
Because Compton will be there, and they've already got the bet between Bussin' with the Boys and the Heights podcast.
They're probably not going to announce it though because of those people that have been robbing houses of NFL players in Kansas City. So we might not know until that day.
Is there?
Has already been hit.
Guys, is there added pressure for Dylan Raiola if his hero Patrick Mahomes is at the game? You guys worry about that?
Hey, they don't look alike.
By the way, they don't have a new haircut too.
Yeah, they don't look alike anymore.
Can they do a synchronized both run and jump and yell into the end zone? If they synchronize it, that would be kind of cool.
Okay, so I know we got to run here, but how? Because Dylan has become more comfortable with local media, and this will be like the first time he's ever been around a gaggle of national media. How far into his media sessions in Las Vegas is there a Mahomes question?
Question 3.
Yeah,
it is going to be question 3 at the big podium. Yeah.
That damn guy from the ticket, Jesus.
Question 1. Question 1 is about improvements and transfers. Question 2 is about Dana Holgerson. Question 3 is about Patrick Mahomes.
I think we go later. I think there'll be a buzz amongst themselves. Are you going to ask? Are you going to ask? Are you going to ask it?
Who asked?
And then there'll be some junior Cub reporter from some website that will pop up and ask it.
And by the way, what is the question there? Why do you look
Well, he'll
like
have to
Patrick
explain all
Mahomes? Like, what are you asking?
During your freshman season, a lot was made of your comparisons with Patrick Mahomes, your play style, your style. Just want to get your thoughts. Is that something you listen to? Is that something you do inspire to be?
Go out of your way to mimic the guy.
Well, Patrick Mahomes is a great player, and I've been fortunate enough to train with him over the past few months, and he's a guy I've looked up to. But he's his own man, I'm my own man, and I'm just focused on Nebraska.
He's been a great guy at helping me become a better quarterback.
There's your preview.
Yep.
There's your preview. That's how it goes down.
Good question too, by the way, Elijah. Journalism. That's what you were talking about.
Can you ask it wearing the Wolf shirt on Tuesday?
Yes. Hey, the biggest accomplishment would be to get Lutovsky to do like a long answer to a question.
We'll make it happen Thursday.
Is he kind of brief, Lutovsky?
Yeah, it was kind of surprising that he's going to be one of their starting offensive linemen, it would appear, but he's he's not a guy that gets deep into things. He's just kind of a short answer guy.
We're gonna get old Henry geared up on, what's his ultimate breakfast spread. Yes, we'll talk O-line, but why not talk food with offensive linemen?
Does anyone know Henry Lutovsky's major? We can try to tie football back to his major and maybe get him talking a little bit.
What is it?
I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know. It used to be all online, and now it's hard to find. Oh, criminology and criminal justice.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, it used to be a default that if you didn't know a player's major, you just say communications
or sociology,
general studies,
PE.
Criminology and criminal justice. What can we get into with Henry Lutovsky that get a long answer somehow related?
Death penalty.
Henry, you weren't living here because you're not from here, but walking Willie Ote. Let's discuss.
Speaking of O-line,
Union.
Speaking of O-line, we're gonna have Spindler, Justin Evans, Lutovsky, and Pritchett. And are we still trying to figure out the fifth?
I'm still thinking Gatula, but we'll see.
Right tackle Gatula. You've got
who from the MASH unit of Corcoran and Prohaska
both
is able to actually play this year and contribute.
Well, I think I don't know, man. That's a good question because I think Henry's is also an option at right tackle. Lutovsky is.
Hey, you also have Kraynak, who is it was Tyler Kraynak week this past week.
Yeah, and he's junior.
I'm a Gunnar Gatula fan. People forget about this. He started at Nebraska at right tackle and then moved to left tackle last year and is likely making the move back to right side this year. The question with him is not like making that move. It's what's his health status? What was he able to get done this offseason with that shoulder injury? Gunnar is my guy that I think I'm penciling in at right tackle because I liked what he did last year. The injury is the big question. Can he take a jump going into his second year of consistent playing time? But I think he's the guy to beat out at right tackle despite that injury. That's who I have penciled in right there right now. I thought he was very impressive for a guy. The guy I go back to, one of our favorites here on the show, where it took some of his lumps freshman year, but you saw the potential moving forward. Jeremiah Searles. Searles, you saw the potential. Did he get killed by Von Miller against Texas A&M? Yes, Von Miller killed a lot of people that year. But he also made some strides, got a lot better as the year went on. It was a guy that was at least reliable by the end of that true freshman season. I saw much the same out of Gunnar. That's kind of the comparison I have in my mind for what his Husker career could be. So I have him penciled in on the right side.
Works.
Okay. But it'll be interesting if Corcoran and Prohaska, experience matters a ton on the offensive line. They have plenty of that. They just have had horrible injury problems. But if they can survive those, they make it interesting.
You are deep and
so
presumably talented.
I like Teddy a lot as a person, and it's wild that he's been in Nebraska for a while and he's only played 19 games. And you would love to have the moment back where he had to block Aiden Hutchinson, and you were like, okay, I can see what's happening here. But he's never been able to consistently stay on the field. No. And I almost go into this year with any snaps you get from Prohaska. Now, I think he health-wise is a little bit ahead of Corcoran. I think it's just a bonus. I don't know if they'll start because you would always be like, okay, how long is he going to be here? How long is he going to stay healthy? So I think any snaps you get out of those two is a bonus. And I don't think Nebraska, unlike past years, is relying on them.
No, they're not. That's a fair point because there's a good chance neither of them start. In fact, that's likely. It's likely that neither of them start.
Well, they could start, but not get the majority of snaps.
Turner Corcoran could play more guard than Turner Corcoran, when healthy, could play more guard than tackle.
And that's what people have been saying for the longest is that he should be playing guard, not tackle. But Nebraska didn't have that luxury. They had no other option. They had to play him at tackle.
Yeah, I think the fall camp is really important for the offensive line. And we rattled off 4 guys that we don't worry about. It's the other 6 to 7 guys that I think have to have a big fall camp because they're going to have some depth. And there's some guys that they've been here now and it's go time, like a Bricks, like a Sledge, like a Majacek.
Yep, guys are on the clock for sure. I mean, they've been in the program, and the nice part is they haven't been thrusted forward before they're ready.
And one of the things I think needs to be determined during fall camp, and you got to have a little bit of health with both, but 3rd and 1, you're at the 45-yard line, opposing 45-yard line.
Pass.
That's one question. But which side of that offensive line are you going to run it behind? Are you running it behind that left side? Which, I mean, Elijah Pritchett, he's a bit of a mauler out there on the left side, but right side's got Rocco. You're running it left, you're running it right on that 3rd and 1 scenario. And that's probably going to need to be determined.
I'm running it behind Evans.
Up the middle?
Some sort of cutback counter.
Yeah. I'm pulling Rocco and running left. That's what I'm running. That's what I'm doing.
Pulling Rocco, so that way you have Pritchett and Rocco. Yeah. With a little
I think it would
Evans
be.
action.
I think this year it'd be very easy because that left side of the offensive line, I think, is going to be really good to be so left-handed heavy that's where you need the right side to also hold up their end of the bargain.
And not to mention, if you're a team that runs strong to the left, that bootleg action that you get with your right-handed quarterback becomes stronger as well.
Man, did we just hit some deep tracks here right at the one more thing moment?
Well, I mean, hey, so let's be honest. At the end of the day, let's just say Dylan makes an improvement because he's in his 2nd year, but he doesn't make the jump to being a great quarterback. But he's a better quarterback because they fixed the offensive line and they got a couple of wide receivers that will be better against man coverage than anybody they had catching the ball last year. And that in turn makes your quarterback better instead of the vice versa of the quarterback is able to cloud over some issues on offensive line or some wide receivers that get mauled at the line of scrimmage.
And maybe you're also benefiting from better field position more often because of improved special teams too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was looking at 80-yard fields pretty regularly last year.
Yeah, I mean, they're off-season additions, like, make sense. You can connect dots. Hey, last year we weren't good here. Okay, let's go get a couple of wide receivers that are better than what we had last year that ailed us and really hurt our quarterback.
Yeah, and I think in Dane Key, Nebraska is getting a Westerkamp type. I'm not sure he's the game breaker, the speed merchant, but he fights for balls and he catches everything. So I think you're going to have that dependability. We should probably go another half hour and break down.
Elijah's like, no, we are going to hit stop and off in 2 seconds. Find us tomorrow with the Sunday edition of the Average Joe Sports Show, Sunday Live at 10:30. This is always fun. The weekend edition, we get rolling at 7:45-ish. Like and subscribe on YouTube with the Average Joe Sports Show and Twitter as well, AJ Sports Radio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, Mr. Mark Kraynak, longtime listener, Pride of Fairbury's Bill Doleman, the man running it and doing awesome, Elijah Herbel with the mustache, Chris Schmidt back from an extended time away. So thanks to all of you fellas. Appreciate you being there for me.
Thing, Gary, you never did explain the 5-0.
5 weeks to week 0. Armageddon.
Okay.
Where the loser of the K-State Iowa State game in Dublin
stays.
The next time that the game is played, there will either be wheat or corn in the end zones. Those are the rules.
Okay.
All right. Hey, y'all, be thinking about your Cincy, Akron, and Houston something predictions because we are hitting those first 3 next week. So I need you to really think about that.
Okay.
Are we going to put a 1 in that column or a 0 in that column?
Houston Christian Methodist.
There's a
Southern
formula at the bottom that'll.
What else are you going to be doing aside from checking in on the Houston Christian game? Come on.
There happens to be a little. Yeah, yes. There happens to be.
Sounds like sounds like somebody hasn't really done any analysis and is just kind of,
dude,
knee-jerk reaction, counting it as a W.
They have a CVS next to the 50-yard line at their field.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is that for their players?
Does Houston Christian even
There's a Todd Walker's son was up for the College World Series. Todd Walker played at LSU.
Best hitter I've ever seen in person, by the way.
I just name dropped there. But his dad was asking, we were in a group and he was asking about Nebraska's schedule. And I said, then they have Houston Christian. and his son lives in Houston. And he goes, "Oh, that's a bad neighborhood." And I was like, "Okay." I go, "But tell me about the CVS that is just outside the stadium on the 50-yard line." He goes, "Oh yeah, that's legit. It gets robbed all the time." I'm like,
Enter at
man,
your own risk.
man.
I think it just shows Houston Christian's commitment to player recovery and injuries. They can just go right there and get some gauze and some ice packs.
It's an NIL thing.
Yeah.
The stadium does not have. The stadium does not have a visitor. You know how most high school stadiums have a visitor side? They don't have a visitor side.
Yeah. Can you see the CVS then on the other side?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it's a lion's den
where you have to be buzzed in.
Is it like a chain link fence around the outside of their stadium with makeshift metal and wood bleachers?
Seacrest seats more than their stadium. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
It's wow.
So those dudes are going to come in hungry.
To be clear, Nebraska doesn't play there this year. That's not. I don't think that's a home and home, right?
Third largest CVS.
The other Brian, third largest CVS on game day.
Hey, can you imagine? Dannon going into Rule's office and going, "Hey, we just did a 4-for-1 with Houston Christian, and they won't move the game to NRG Stadium, so we're going to have to play on campus."
I just love how you Satanists are going against a school that's all about Christianity, but whatever, that's
Kraynak,
on you.
on
That's
that
on
note,
you.
What happens then, Kraynak, when they play Houston Baptist?
Then everybody wins.
The offering
Especially
plate
God.
is full.
I think they were Houston Baptist.
Is that what they were?
Yeah, I think they opened up the tent.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let's get one more thing. How can you be Baptist and then go to Okay.
Yeah.
You're
still good.
I think they just opened up the. Let's let a few more into the church.
Mhm.
Average Joe Sports Show poll question: Are Baptists Christians?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
These guys are so bad. You're acting like Lincoln Lutheran should play them or something. Maybe they can get a twofer.
Maybe they should update the Houston Christian Baptist Lutheran Methodist University.
Yeah.
Open up the doors to evererone.
We'll take everybody.
I think they were trying to do that by designating themselves Christian, but I don't. Maybe not.
Well,
Maybe
no Muslims.
Well, I mean, like eventually they will be good in some sport because there is going to be money that is behind that school, but they're new to this whole big boy football.
Yeah.
Paycheck
So I
game.
guess should I just put in ones next to your names on that
Well,
one? It sounds like
we'll
y'all
mull it
have
over.
already decided.
So you go from playing, you have them the week after you play right now one of the worst teams in Division I football in Akron.
I'm just gonna go ahead and add some ones. I'm not gonna presume on Brandon.
This is your
Not
tax for doing the satellite camp there a few years ago.
So far, y'all.
Okay.
We are saying Nebraska's getting at least one win. We're all in agreement there.
So they're not on the level of like Georgia Southern. But if Nebraska is different, they don't dick around with Akron and Houston something. Okay? They're a heavy favorite for a reason, and they go in and do work. Okay.
It's 42-7, and everybody gets to play.
Yeah, and the guy that is going into his 50, I think this will be his 50th year of selling programs outside of the West Stadium.
Yeah.
You have to buy a program for that game.
And it's Jeff Kenny jersey or Johnny
Yes.
Ross jersey. Yeah.
I think his first name is Randy, but I do believe this will be his
Randy's
50th year of selling programs.
Randy's
now that we're
good
looking
dude.
ahead, I'm just going to add another little column there to Natty. No, I'm kidding.
Fellas, we'll get ready to do it again tomorrow with the Sunday Live, and Kraynak will check in again with you down the road.
Godspeed. All right.
We'll get you a link tomorrow.
Mark, I sent you a link.
Yeah, where were you last Sunday?
Saw that. It was a lot. I was busy. I didn't know if you really wanted me. It was I was really struggling with that one all night. I was in therapy about it this week, but thanks for bringing that up to end the show. So
we believe in you and your journey.
This is
Bill
going really
Doleman,
dark. Thanks.
Herbel, Gary Sharp, Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt. Talk to you tomorrow, Sunday Live with the
Need to
Average
find
Joe
God.
Sports Show. Thank you.
I'm going to enroll at Houston Christian. Godspeed.